Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight, and my guest tonight is filmmaker Anthony Cousins and actress Chelsey Grant. How's it going, guys?
It's going good.
Good, yeah.
Hey, thank you for coming on. I just watched your found footage film, Frogman, which is a big urban legend around here in Loveland, Ohio, which I don't live far from. And I've talked to some of the townspeople in Loveland, Ohio about the Frogman, and they've had some interesting stories. So what decided you to do a found footage film about Frogman from Loveland, Ohio?
I just love the whole cryptid scene. I love monsters. I love frogs, even aside from being monstrous. Just cute little frogs in general are my thing, especially if they're wearing little suits and hats. And I became aware of Frogman, and it was just like all my favorite things in one place. And I couldn't believe that he's not more well known and doesn't get more love. I think he is definitely deserving of being in the echelon of like Bigfoot and Mothman, because he's just so interesting. He's got a wand that's super special. No other cryptid can say that. So yeah, I just wanted to give him a little bit more love, a little bit more of a platform.
Also, when you were doing this film, you used your childhood camera as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. The whole opening is very inspired from just real life. We shot on the camera my dad used to bring on vacation and shoot with us. And then all of us kids would grab it and watching that footage back, we're always just like trying to figure out like, who's operating right now? Who is this? Okay. The POV is now a little lower, but all our voices sound the same. It's like, who is this? So it totally came from that. And yeah, I still had that camera lying around, so that's the one we shot on too.
Now let's get to Chelsey. I loved your role in the film. You were playing like an actress, and you were with your friends, and you were getting ready to leave to go to bigger avenues for your role in films, and you decided to stick with them to go on this urban legend hunt about the Frogman. So how'd you become part of the project, and how'd you prepare yourself for the character you portrayed in the film? I mean, you really went all the way in this film.
Oh, thank you. I got to thank the team for getting me in, of course. So was it a week before, Anthony? Finishing up?
When I reached out to you?
Yeah, I think it was a week before we started. You wanted to start filming, or at least kind of making progress on Frogman. We were finishing up Scare Package 2.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it was like back to back, and I had heard John Carsko and Anthony talking about Frogman, and I think they had asked me if I wanted to maybe be involved, but I was pretty adamant that I would do a tape, if anything, so you guys got me a cut of the scene for Amy, and I remember sending in a tape, and I think pretty close to when we started filming, I found out that I was on. And so, yeah, I was, as for Amy prep, I found out, I think halfway through shooting, that you guys had me in mind while writing Amy. So that was like very heartwarming, and also a little bit of a help as an actor preparing, going, oh, okay. They know that Amy has a lot of similarities to me, and so that made it a lot easier to have discussions, actor, director, actor to writer, to figure out what they kind of wanted for Amy, to make sure I was on the correct path to be a good opposite to Betty and Nate's character.
I mean, you did a good job. So before you got into this role, did you do a little research about the Frogman as well?
That was another thing I found out. I genuinely did not realize. I thought because Anthony loved frogs so much that this was something he came up with, truly. Because everyone in a film community that knows or has worked with Anthony knows how much he loves frogs. And then when I found out this was actually real, jumping into filming and everything, it was something that someone had said in passing. And I remember being in complete shock, but then completely diving into the lore then, because at first I was nervous. I was like, oh, did I not do preparation? But really, I think not a lot of people knew it was real.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. I also love the cinematography shots in certain scenes where you guys were, going through the woods by the river, and then especially that creepy cavern where you see that messed up cult that was worshiping the Frogman. And I do believe in cults like that because there's a lot of that type of stuff around Ohio. You just got to be careful not to get into the wrong area at the wrong time. It really felt real watching through the camera, when you're going through the caves and, seeing the cult and going through the woods. It was like a real life experience, and it kept me on the edge of my seat. And then especially when you filmed about the crazy old man looking for his daughter, that guy gave me the willies. I would never want to be in the woods with that guy.
He's so great, though. He's like a teddy bear. He's an awesome actor and person. But yeah, he does a good job, I think, eliciting a lot of stake.
He was awesome. He really... We brought him back so many times during filming because we kind of would drop filming and pick it up months later, and over the course of those months, we'd always do rewrites and add new stuff. And that poor guy Jack, every time we brought him back, we completely changed his character. We have so much footage from other journeys that character went on that we never used, and he was just he was so down for anything. Every time he came back, his character was new, and he was just cool, I'm down. What's in the movie now where he's after his granddaughter? He never had a granddaughter when we were shooting initially. I think we even added the bit about him capturing the first footage of Frogman too. I think that was even a late addition.
Yeah, let's talk about the special effects in the film. I love it because you went practical. How'd you create that Frogman? When you see clips of it in the film, it looks so real-like. I mean, it looks like a real a cryptozoid, really roaming around. It just felt weird. It just gave me the creeps.
Yeah, that was just the old guy in a suit trick, or sometimes in our case a girl in a suit, because we wanted to stay true to the actual legend of Frogman, where he's roughly 4.5 feet tall. And there was our effects people were like, well, why isn't he he should be big, he's a monster? And it's no, Frogman's a little guy. His power's in the wand. So we had 3 actors play him over the course of filming. So it really was just guy in a suit, and then we added a little bit of CG augmentation to bring it to life. Mostly just blinking and a little bit of a throat, inflation effect. Chelsey can talk about being wrapped in the tongue sock that we made.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How did that feel to have that big old tongue wrapped around you? I was going to ask about that. It looked like you weren't having a good time while you were doing the role where you were wrapped around by that tongue.
Surprisingly, out of all the horror movie things I've done, that was probably the coziest. It was super cozy because that cave in particular was pretty well finished on the floor, but not many layers between your body and the floor. You're gonna suck up all the cold. So I knew that I was gonna have to be kind of knocked out, but it was a lot of layers in between me and the floor, so I was quite warm. And very cozy, wrapped up in that practical tongue, which was handmade by the team, and it was very cozy.
By watching it, it felt real what you're going through. I was feeling it myself. I was covering my throat a little bit. I go, I can feel that. And I really did. I was feeling that with you. I was like, dang, I would hate to have a slimy, frog tongue wrap around me. And then you guys also had those slimy eggs. How'd you make those slimy frog eggs?
Our production designer, Jason Thomas, made the eggs. And I think, if I remember correctly, he found some sort of weird ball, like an inflatable ball that are made for horses to play with. They're just like a horse toy. And so he bought one of those and saran wrapped it, and then deflated the ball so that there was just the saran wrap left. And then he like painted them and added some boils and some other weird stuff on them to get them how they look like in the movie.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was, like pretty chill. You also filmed the film in the small town. I know you didn't film it in Loveland, Ohio, but I like how you made it feel like Loveland, Ohio. How you made it feel like Loveland, Ohio is, especially when we were shooting in the woods and there's a river. That just reminds me of a couple areas in Loveland. So when I was watching it, I was like, wait a second, this isn't filmed in Loveland, but I do like, how you filmed it where it felt like you were in Loveland, especially the Loveland sign right outside of the, the city limits. So where did you, what small town and woods did you film the Frogman at?
It was kind of like a Frankenstein of a few different locations that sit outside of the Twin Cities. And then a couple things we actually shot in Minneapolis proper, also here in Minnesota. What am I talking about? I'm in Denver right now. Chelsey's in Minnesota, though. I don't know where I am half the time. But I did. It was on my list of things to do to visit Loveland before we shot, and I never got around to it. So I did the best I could by researching it online, looking up some Google photos. And when Chelsey and I and the team visited Loveland a couple of weeks ago, we were pretty impressed with ourselves for having never visited there. We were like, damn, you know what? We kind of nailed it, sort of. Like, if you've ever been to Loveland, you would know for sure that it wasn't the same place. But yeah, I think we captured the essence of it. Loveland is such a cool little town. I do want to just shoot the next one there if we can.
Oh, please do. And if you do, I would love to come by the set to check this out. Like I said, I don't live far from Loveland. It's a great little town, friendly people. I mean, there's so much cool stuff to do in there. Since you were mentioning you guys were in Loveland, there was a Frogman festival there as well, which I never knew about, which, I was kind of sad. And you showed your film there. So how did the audience react when you were showing the Frogman found footage film at that festival in Loveland, Ohio?
What did you think, Chelsey?
Oh, gosh. It was a really cool feeling. I think there was excitement from people before they even saw anything, which was pretty nerve-wracking, but also encouraging. I think people were excited, and honestly, just to be able to meet and talk with a bunch of them, and the Q&A and the Frogman Festival itself, it was super welcoming. So it was kind of like one big celebration of the Frogman.
Yeah, that was. I think about it all the time because it was such a magical experience. Like I feel like I dreamed it up in some ways because when we decided to make this movie, and even when we shot this movie, there hadn't been a Frogman Festival yet, because this past March was only year 2. So the fact that it lined up, like the second year of this festival lined up with us releasing this movie, and they invited us to come out, was just insane. I feel like there was just like something in the hive mind collective that was like, what, it's time to celebrate Frogman. So that was so much fun. There's not a whole lot of movies you can make and there's like a specific like celebration that revolves around the premise of that movie. Like that's such a, and there wasn't when we made this too. So it's just like, it's unbelievable.
So when you did research on the Frogman, I'm going to ask this question to you too as well, Chelsey. Were you guys firm believers in urban legends and cryptology a little bit before you started, digging and decided to make this film?
You start, Cousins.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and I believe it all. I think it's all crazy exciting. And the thing that really sells me on it is 9 times out of 10, the people that have these experiences and have these wild stories about frogmen and flatwoods monsters and mothmen. Like, they're the type of people that would not make this stuff up, and they usually don't even want attention, you know. Like, they say something because of course if you saw something like that, you'd probably say something, and then it gets a bunch of attention, and then they try to walk it back or like disappear in the background, and like they don't want the attention. So like I think that's really interesting because it doesn't seem like it's the type of people that would just make stuff up. And then being in Loveland, I was like, every corner we like rounded at night in the woods, I was like, this is where we're gonna see them. Like, it just felt, I could feel them.
What about you, Chelsey?
Anthony kind of kickstarted when we met any of my work in horror or my knowledge in it at all. I was totally not doing that genre. And so as I've gotten a few years into friendship with Anthony and getting to work on these incredible things, you study up, you watch things that what we make is inspired by. And yeah, there's something about Loveland where every time we were, you know, ride sharing to meet each other for a drink after, you know, whatever, or some food after the festival, there's this feeling of eeriness, but excitement that if there is this much talk, and like Anthony was saying, from people that wouldn't just choose to say things just to say things, there's some part of you that definitely not only believes, but I think wants to. I think it seems more silly to not think that there's something going on, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty good too. So what you were mentioning, Anthony, how, you know, there's like firm believers and people that, you know, really believe in this. Speaking of, since we're getting into this, I got a story for you too. There's a town here in Ohio, not far from me, called Germantown, Ohio, and they got the legend of the Dog Man. You know, half dog, half wolf, going around, you know, chasing people while they're driving their cars in the country roads or seeing sightings. And I've talking to several researchers about the Dog Man too. And so every time I go to Germantown, you know, like at night, I kind of like how you feel like at Leveland, like that's how I feel in Germantown. I feel that eeriness that I'm afraid that, you know, this Dog Man's going to come jump at me in a dark corner somewhere, or I'll be like driving on the country road home and seeing it like pop right in front of the windshield and scare the living tar out of me.
Yeah, like it's just, I've had an instance where I was driving on like a desolate road in Wisconsin to like go meet some buddies at a cabin, and I was freaking myself out. I was like listening to like conspiracy podcasts like on the drive, and I was getting really freaked, and I saw like my headlights were catching the reflection of like a lamppost outside of someone's like turn into their driveway, because all the driveways on this like desolate road were like long gravel roads, and so they had like a couple of you know, like markers or whatever, and from far away all I could see was just this like thin like stem, and then at the top this bulbous head that was like glowing at me. And until I got close enough, I was completely convinced I was looking at an alien. Like, I was so freaked out. And then I got within like 5 feet of it, and I was like, oh my God, it's a lamppost. You know, so like, there's also that where like, maybe someone saw an owl sitting in a tree with its eyes glowing, and there was a bush underneath it that kind of looked like a body, and they got freaked out and thought they saw like a creature or something. But regardless, if the creature exists or it's just mistaken identity, I think the fact that something like the Frogman Festival pops up because of it, and all these people start doing their own renditions of it, like different artists come together, like, and just celebrate this thing that may or may not exist. I think it's just like so fun and so beautiful, and just like such an exciting like way to get together with other weirdos.
Hey, that's the same thing with that, hanging out with the horror community, because we all love, you know, horror films. You know, it's the same thing. You'll meet, like I said, you'll meet some like really interesting people. Another scene, we'll get into it, but I'm not going to spoil it for anybody else who wants to watch it. How'd you guys do the one special effect where you see, one of the actors where they had the big, frog throat, like doing the, like puffing up like a balloon? That was a trip.
It's really simple when you break it down. It's literally just like the prosthetic goes over a balloon basically, and there's a tube going down the shirt that our SFX person is just blowing into.
I mean, that was pretty good. I mean, that was a great pan shot. I love that shot. That was pretty good too. Let's go back to Chelsey. So Chelsey, you're a big lover of horror. So if you've done a lot of horror films, since you did a lot of horror films, does it get you more and more falling in love with horror and having all these crazy thoughts in your head?
Absolutely. Because when I met Anthony, my main thing, my shtick, was always drama. And we met on a shoot that was pretty dramatic. It was a pretty intense shoot, and he was DPing, and I was an actor, and he came to me in the craft services line, was like, hey, do you like horror movies? And that's how it all started. So I auditioned for something of his, and I'm really grateful that it's grown my love for horror movies. Like, we both went to Fright Fest in the UK 2 years ago. I went to the Frogman premiere, and it was just wild, the excitement, but obviously the festival, and yeah, there's something about it. It's been really cool to look back, and if I asked myself 10 years ago if I was doing anything in the horror genre, I would probably be like, what? No. What? And now that I am, I don't want it any other way. It's such a cool community. It is. I mean, truly, I feel like Anthony made 20 friends just going to the festival, and everyone just had this beautiful community-like energy that is just not really in a lot of other fields. I don't think there's something pretty special about it.
I think so too. I totally agree with you. So when you started getting in the, into the, the horror community and being in like horror films, what was your go-to horror film that you really enjoy watching?
Anthony, he's staring me down through the screen. I was studying up for not only some other projects, but stuff with Anthony too, and VHS came up a lot. And my favorite is the Ratma segment. And I remember, hearing all the articles likening some of Frogman to that in tone and things like that. I think reminded me a lot of why I liked working on Frogman. It was something I enjoyed watching because I cared about the characters, but then when the flip happened, it got to my heebie-jeebie core. And so I would say that one, and Halloween got a soft spot because that was some of the first stuff that I started studying for when I started with Anthony. I talked to Anthony and John Carsko, and I say, hey, what were your inspirations for creating this crazy script? And they'll give me a list, and I go hunker down and study, and sometimes I choose to watch them during the day.
That's pretty smart. Now, Anthony, tell me about Scare Package. Those films are just like freaking wild, man. I like to see more of these Scare Package films. I mean, they're just original and fun. It's just something different to watch.
Yeah, well, I hope you do see more of it. I mean, we definitely have a lot of ideas of where the Daisy character would go, and where the Night That He Came Back Again franchise would go from here. Yeah, those were really fun. I mean, there's so much meta horror out there now, and it's really hit or miss for me. Like when it's too self-referential, I don't know. It was clever the first few times, and now it's just getting it feels a little easy, like low-hanging fruit. I think they created something really unique with Scare Package, though, because it revolves around, a video store owner that's obsessed with this stuff, it really like it lends itself to being self-referential and really like calling out the tropes and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm giving anything away on their end, but at one time, Scare Package was called Tropes, for good reason, as you can see. So, but when it came to our segments, I think honestly, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference. But the fact that Chelsey wasn't well versed in horror or a fan of horror, like really kind of helped, honestly, because she took it so seriously, and that's how that character should have been. Like a final girl doesn't know she's a final girl. That drives me crazy when a final girl is like aware of the trope, whereas this is just a girl that is going through shit and like trying to just live a normal life, and there's someone out there trying to like kill everyone she loves and obsessed with her or whatever. Like, I wanted her to take it seriously, and she did, because she wasn't like totally aware of all the tropes that we were playing with, so that was really important to me. Obviously, we're making tons of references in our segments, but at least to the characters that are experiencing it in the movie, I wanted to not feel like they're aware of horror movies and the tropes that they're playing into.
That was perfect in Frogman, because Kelsey's character was perfect. Like you said, you couldn't tell if she was a final girl or not. She was just like a normal girl, going with her friends, go, okay, I'll do one more last trip and then I'm going to, move on and stuff. And I just like, how she played it off with Benny and them. You guys, I don't know if you guys met for the first time when you filmed this, because when you were together in scenes with Benny, it just felt like you guys really were like friends for like many years. You can just feel that authenticity between the characters in Frogman.
Well, that means a lot, because day one for all of us, I think we were so deeply wanting to do well for the story and for the characters, but none of us three had met or worked together before. And so I think with having Anthony be so good with bringing the right people together, and he'd work with each of us individually, just never us together, that I think the excitement of making something so new, but having kind of Anthony at the fulcrum of everything, there was a lot of trust already built in. And so, yeah, I mean, I love those guys. We had so many late nights in the woods and reshoots and ups and downs throughout production that I love those guys. I would not have wanted you to put anyone else in those shoes. We had too much damn fun.
Yeah, Anthony, let's talk about the music in the film too, because music's pretty important in like horror films, because it makes the atmosphere, makes the character, or certain scores make the characters in the film where you're getting like sucked into them. Like certain characters in films will have their own theme song as well, when in a certain situation.
Yeah, that was something we kind of went back and forth on, because without ruining the ending,
yeah,
there definitely is there's an element to our found footage movie that is like kind of unique, that would have lent itself to being able to like do a proper score. And we talked about it, but ultimately it felt like, no, let's only use music that would be diegetic. I think diegetic is the right term for music.
Yeah.
The characters are hearing also. It's not something just for the audience. So yeah, it was a lot of friends offering their own music. Frog Lord, who I was already a huge fan of, who does like doom metal, and it's all amphibian based in the UK. I just reached out to him and asked him if we could use a couple songs in the movie, and he was really generous with just being like, yeah, use whatever you want. And then he made us a credit song too, which is super awesome. And then our buddy Matt Glass, who is like one of the best musicians I know, his scores are incredible for movies like 12-Hour Shift and Ghost of the Ozarks. He did the cult chant like literally overnight. I told him what we needed, and then I don't even remember if he responded back to me, like that he was going to do it, but then the next day he just turned it in, and like we didn't even do any changes. It was perfect. And some of the music that you hear them listening to in the car is also just like original tracks by him too.
That's pretty cool. I liked the music because it was pretty catchy. Yeah, I guess that's why I was asking you who did that. I'll definitely have to check out some of their work. I always like to check out new artists with the music. It's like real catchy. It's like, hey man, this is pretty cool. I got to do research on there to check it out. So on Frogman, is there ever going to be like maybe another sequel about the Legend of Frogman?
Yeah, we're writing it right now. We definitely know where this story goes from here. And even more so than just, like Frogman 2, I think there's a huge potential. We already thought there was a huge potential for just like doing more cryptids. Like we love cryptids, we love this world. And it's like, we kind of end in a way where it's like, okay, secret's out now. Like Frogman's real. Who else is real? So what other monsters could we go towards? And it seemed like the reaction from fans of the first movie is like, yeah, go after other monsters. So, yeah, that's what we plan on doing. But Frogman 2 is next.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, and I so need this on Blu-ray because I'm a strong supporter of physical media, man. I gotta have this for my collection. So far for this year of indie horror films, I would put Frogman so far in my top list of indie horror films of 2024. So at the end of the year, it's going to be ranked on my list. I mean, which is really great. Yeah, I would love to see more films like Frogman. I'll tell you another good one. Maybe you should do. I did some. I read some research on this. Every time there's like a UFO sighting, for some reason there's also a Bigfoot sighting at the same time. Like they have like that strong connection or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that weird? There's like, I mean, I think that there's a theory that pretty much all these cryptids are aliens or are interdimensional beings, that just get like stranded here or something, or maybe it's their vacation planet or something like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that. And like in your area, in Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky alone, it's like a freaking hot spot. Like I think there is something like the veil between dimensions is thin there or something, because you guys got a lot of monsters roaming around.
Oh, we do, and we also got a legit lot of haunted places too. There's so much paranormal stories, urban legends, between Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, because it's like a tri-state. So you can go through this and find some interesting stuff, especially around Ohio and Kentucky. There's so much woods and country roads. You can lose your imagination if you're like walking and it's like real dark, like on a trail or something. Your whole mind can go crazy thinking you saw like Bigfoot or something or Dogman. Yeah, there's a lot. Ohio, Kentucky, like I said, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. They got so much stories of urban legends people could do films on, which is great. I'm a big fan of that type of genre anyway, besides the found footage. But yeah, I like to see more of it, to see where it goes. I mean, there's so much great stories out there, especially West Virginia. Besides the Mothman, they have other cryptozoids out there too you can explore besides the Mothman, or paranormal sightings with like ghost stories and all that too. I mean, there's so much great ghost stories. I mean, especially in Oxford, Ohio, where Miami University is at. That place is haunted with all kinds of stuff. You got this country road you go down to, and if you turn your headlights on and off, you'll see a ghostly motorcycle light coming in front of you, and it just disappears. And then you're just like curious, going, is there like a mirror at the end of the country road, where it's shining off? It's just a curiosity, what goes through your mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Flatwoods Monster.
Sorry, Anthony, what?
Flatwoods Monster, which is the other one in West Virginia that just gets a little overshadowed because of Mothman. That one is high on my list. And then one I didn't even know about until Chelsey and I found out about it at the same time when we were at Frogman Festival as Vegetable Man, which
wow,
sounds ridiculous, but is like maybe one of the most haunting cryptid stories that I've ever heard is the one sighting of Vegetable Man. So like I wouldn't mind digging into that too.
Man, this is so fun. See, you guys rock. You guys have the same interests. I love talking about Frogman, and then I love how we go and talk about, these cryptozoids and urban legends, which makes this podcast so fun. And I'm so pumped up you guys are doing a part 2, because how it ended. It did really leave it for a continuation. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I know the audience wants more. I want more. You're making this thirsty for what happened at the end of the first film. It's like, I want to see this now. And so where can everybody find you on social media to see what you guys are doing next, and what are some of your next projects you guys are doing?
You started off, Cousins.
I'm mostly on Instagram, cousins_Anthony, and there's also the Frogman movie Instagram at Frogman movie. And yeah, Frogman 2, that's what's next, I think.
What about you, Chelsey? Are we going to see you in more horror films? Are we going to see you as a kick-ass final girl, or even maybe being a bad villain?
Oh gosh. I mean, right now I'm popping in for drama for a little bit, but not for too long, because if Frogman 2 is taking traction, and I'm reading a few scripts right now, some horror scripts that are pretty dang cool. Haven't auditioned yet, so that's always the fun of being an actor, is you get to see stories, and whether or not you end up getting to work on them, they're being made. So there's some things in the ether, but yeah, next month is a drama in London that I'm working on with some colleagues. So that should be fun. And then social media is kind of the same as Anthony. What if we shared one? No, I go to Instagram for most of posting about work, and mine is Chelsey_Grant_actor. You can tell I use it for work. And I have like the IMDb and website stuff, but I would say most of the up-to-date, exciting, what set am I hanging on now, or am I seeing or hanging out and seeing my other friends' work, like Anthony's stuff, that all goes on there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Anthony's doing next besides, Frogman 2. You got my interest in you, so I'm going to definitely be stalking your social media to see what you're going to be doing next.
One more thing to look out for, too, is Chelsey and I both worked on another found footage movie last November called Old Wounds, which is a really, really unique one. It was us and only 3 other people on set for the whole thing, and it's really just Chelsey and 2 other people in front of the camera. It was like maybe one of the most fun experiences I've had in filmmaking. Like, just that's the smallest crew ever, and we just all like got along so well. It was a freaking blast. So look out for that one by our good friend Steve Nelson that directed that.
Wow. Fun team.
Old Wounds. Now you got me. I'm going to have to definitely look that up, because I'm a fan of found footage films as well. I mean, there's some great ones, and there's some ones that shouldn't even be made, but, that's just my opinion. But anyways, thank you so much, guys, for, coming on your busy schedule to come on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us.
All right.
We get to just all the things we like.
Exactly. And everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight. Have a great